In March 2024, the Crawfords thought they had hit the jackpot. A huge 6-bedroom house on the outskirts of town, and for way less than they should have been paying. The place was old, sure, but nothing a little fixing up wouldn't solve. The first night, though, shit got weird. It started small, faucets dripping, even after being shut off tight. The ominous sound of someone walking the upstairs hallway when everyone was downstairs. Then came the voices. Low, hushed whispers, like a conversation just out of earshot. Too faint to make out the words, but clear enough to know they were real. At the end of the first week after moving in, their oldest daughter, Lily, swore up and down she saw a woman at the end of the hall one night. Tall, dark, creepy, and unmoving. But when she flipped on the light, nothing was there. Well, almost nothing. The shadow from this thing lingered for just a few seconds longer than it should have, seeping into the walls like it was alive. Then their oldest daughter, Ava, started waking up covered in scratches. Not the kind you get from just tossing and turning. I'm talking fucking deep, deliberate cuts that ran in straight lines down her legs. The final straw came one night when Ava let out a scream so blood-curdling it jolted the whole family awake. They found her standing on her bed, shaking, pointing at the closet. "She's in there! She's watching!" The closet door, which had been closed when they put her to bed, slowly creaked open, right in front of everyone. The air inside was thick, heavy, and suffocating. Their dad, Mark, yanked her off the bed and practically carried her out of the room like a football player. No one slept that night. No one. By sunrise, they packed whatever they could fit into their car and got the hell out of there. They didn't care about breaking their fucking lease. They didn't care about the goddamn money. They just wanted out. A few months later, Mark got a call from the realtor handling the property. The next family that moved in, well, let me tell you, they lasted 4 days before bailing out in the middle of the night. No one can last in that house for long. In May 2024, a barista named Rachel in Portland posted a detailed account that left readers seriously unsettled. She'd been working late shifts at a cozy little cafe downtown. The kind of place with creaky-ass wooden floors, flickering light bulbs, and a lingering scent of roasted beans, old books, and dust. The building had been there for over a century, but nobody really thought much of it. Until Rachel did. One rainy night after closing, she was wiping down tables when she heard it. A man's voice, low, deliberate, calling her name from the storage room in the back. "Rachel," it said, clear as fucking day. She froze, gripping the rag in her hand like it would protect her against an intruder. She swore she was alone. No one was in the whole building. Swallowing her nerves, she slowly crept over and peeked inside. The room was empty, just dusty shelves and stacks of coffee bags. However, The air was still and heavy. Trying to blow it off, she locked up and left. The next night, it happened again. Same shit, only louder this time.
Rachel, don't leave.
Her stomach dropped to the floor, along with her jaw. She hadn't told a single soul she was thinking about quitting. No one knew she'd been internally debating whether to stick it out or move on. The voice did, and it wasn't done. Over the next week, it got bolder. It started humming an old tune that gnawed at the back of her brain. Something familiar but distant. Like a childhood memory she couldn't completely recall. Then, finally came her last shift at the cafe. Determined to prove she wasn't going fucking crazy, she pulled out her phone and hit record.
"If you're real,"
she whispered into the quiet, illuminated room.
"say something."
A pause. Then, a faint crackling sound scratched through the speaker.
Rachel, don't go.
At that exact moment, every single light in the cafe shut off. In the complete pitch black, she fucking noped out of there real quick. The next day, an old regular, some history buff who'd been coming there for years, overheard her telling the story to someone. He took it on himself and went digging through city archives. What he found made her blood run cold. A black and white photo of the cafe's original owner, a hard-ass looking man with sunken eyes and a permanent pissed-off puss. His name was Thomas Whitaker. He'd died in that very storage room in 1910, collapsed from a heart attack during a thunderstorm. Needless to say, Rachel didn't go back after that. She quit the next day, leaving the photo pinned to the cafe's corkboard with a single note scribbled underneath. He knew my name, my shifts, my thoughts. I'm out. Lucas was crashing at his friend Nate's place for a few weeks when he first noticed something fucked up about the bathroom mirror. Every time he passed by, he got this weird crawling sensation on the back of his neck, like someone was standing just behind him, staring. At first, he just chalked it up to bullshit paranoia. Old houses creaked. Shadows played tricks. You know how it is. But then, one night, after brushing his teeth, he glanced up and nearly lost his shit. His reflection wasn't moving right. It was subtle at first, a blink that felt slightly offbeat. He leaned in closer. His reflection did too, but not quite in sync with him. Odd and very unnerving. Then, as he stood frozen, staring at the mirror, it smiled. A slow, wide, impossible grin that went from ear to ear. Lucas wasn't fucking smiling. His whole body went cold. Everything was covered in goosebumps, including his goosebumps. He backed away, wide-eyed, flipped the light off, and practically sprinted to his room. He tried to reason with himself that he was just wore out, that his brain was just fucking with him. But when he lay in bed that night, trying to push the image out of his head, he heard it. A whisper. Faint, almost like the sound of wind blowing through the trees. He focused on it. The whisper was coming from the bathroom. When he could hear it more clearly, he was both shocked and creeped the fuck out. It was his own voice. Lucas sat straight up, his heart hammering in his chest. He told himself not to look. Just go back to sleep and ignore it. But the whispering got louder. It wasn't just noise. Now there were words. He couldn't quite make them out, but knew deep down it was coming from the fucking mirror. He grabbed a towel and, without looking at it, draped it over the mirror. He didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, when he told Nate about it, his friend just sighed, rubbing a hand over his face like he'd heard it all before. "Dude," Nate muttered, I'm sorry. I should have warned you." Turns out, Lucas wasn't the first person to notice this crazy shit. One of Nate's other friends swore that he woke up in the middle of the night and saw someone standing in the mirror, watching him sleep. The fucked up part? The mirror was in the bathroom. With the angle of the mirror in the bathroom, there was no way it should have been able to reflect anything into the bedroom. Lucas packed his shit that day and got the hell out of there. As for Nate, he still lives in that house. But the mirror? That fucking thing's covered up for good. When Melissa picked up an old black and white family photo from a thrift store, she thought it was cool. A vintage piece to add some character to her apartment. The picture showed a family of 5, parents and 3 kids, dressed in stiff, old-fashioned clothes, unsmiling, their eyes a little too dark, a little too intense. Whatever, it was cheap and she liked the aesthetic. She hung it up in her living room that night and, didn't think much about it. That changed real fucking fast. The nightmares started almost immediately. At first, they were just weird, unsettling dreams. Shadowy figures in the distance. Whispers she couldn't quite make out. But after a few nights, they got worse. In every dream, she was lying in bed, unable to move, while the people from the photo stood at the foot of her bed, staring at her. Just fucking staring. Their eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. Their mouths twitching like they wanted to speak, but couldn't. Every time she'd wake up, gasping for breath, completely drenched in sweat. Then the real-life weird shit kicked in. Small things at first. A book knocked off the shelf when no one was around. Keys that she swore she left on the counter ending up on the floor across the room. But soon, it got worse. One night, while watching TV, she caught movement in her peripheral vision. The photo. The fucking faces looked different. Like they had shifted, just slightly. The next morning, she found the frame lying face down in the middle of the room, the glass shattered all over the floor. Her cat, a very chill, easygoing fluffball named Jasper, refused to go near the wall where the picture had been. He'd just sit at a distance, focused, a low growl and his tail flicking in agitation. That was enough for her. She said, "Fuck this," and grabbed the photo, stuffed it in a trash bag, and hauled it straight to the dumpster. But that night, the nightmare came back. The same people, the same dead stares. Only this time, one of them smiled. Melissa moved out a month later. She doesn't know what happened to the picture. She doesn't want to know. But even now, some nights when she closes her eyes, she swears she can still see their faces, waiting, watching. When Tyler and his roommates, Jake and Ben, moved into an old rental house near their college, they paid little attention to the landlord's one and only warning: don't go in the attic. The dude was weird and spoke in half-muttered sentences, and honestly, they figured he was just trying to scare them into not going up into the attic. Naturally, as soon as they got the keys, the first thing they did was scope out the attic. Idiots. It was dusty as hell, filled with broken furniture, old trunks, and some creepy dolls with cracked faces. Nothing too earth-shattering. But later that night, weird shit started happening. They heard shuffling around up there. Slow, deliberate steps walking back and forth. Then scratching, like claws raking against wood. At first, they joked around about it being raccoons. But when a deep, guttural growl vibrated through the ceiling, suddenly everyone stopped laughing and looked very serious. Over the next few nights, shit got even worse. The noises turned into heavy footsteps, pacing back and forth. Their doors would rattle noisily at fucked up hours. One morning, Jake woke up with 3 long scratches down his back. No explanation. No one had been in his room, and he sure as hell didn't do it. The final straw came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the house, coming straight from the attic. It was loud, inhuman. They bolted out of bed, grabbed baseball bats, and ran outside ready to kick some ass. Looking back at the house, they saw something standing in the attic window. It was barely a shape, more like a dark shadow with burning red eyes. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, poof, it vanished. By sunrise, they were packing their shit. They didn't give 2 fucks about their lease or about getting their deposit back. And when they went to drop off the keys, the landlord didn't even look surprised. He just sighed, took them, and shaking his head, muttered, "Told you not to go up there." So, what is it about stories like these that really fuck with our head? Is it just the thrill of a good scare? Or is it something deeper? Maybe it's that nagging thought we try to ignore. The one that whispers, what if this shit is real? What if somewhere right now a family is hearing voices in the dead of night? A cursed photo is fucking someone's life, and a shadowy bastard is watching from the corner of a darkened room, waiting for its moment. We like to tell ourselves that ghosts aren't real. That demons are just old wives' tales. That every creak, every shadow, every flicker of movement out of the corner of your eye has a rational explanation. Just the house settling, just the wind, just your imagination. But then the sun goes down, the lights flicker, the air feels just a little too still, and then you hear it. A footstep where there shouldn't be one. A whisper too faint to make out. A shape in the hallway that's gone when you blink. Your heart pounds, your colon pushes to evacuate, but you tell yourself it's nothing. It's just your brain fucking with you. But you don't go check, do you? You don't dare open that door. You don't look too long into the darkness, if at all, because deep down, you know better. And so do they. If you dig this video, tap that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. Have you ever had any weird things like that happen to you or someone you know? If you have, let me know in the comments. And if you really want to do me a solid, click on that join button below the title and become part of my YouTube membership. For as low as $2.99, y'all can help me out more than you know. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.